Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be diving into something I know a lot of you have been curious about, how higher education, especially in Mexico, is adapting to this like super fast world of information, and we're going to be looking at it through the lens of connectivism.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see how much the education landscape has changed.
Hmm.
Yeah, even just thinking back to our own experiences.
Oh, totally. I mean, just a couple decades ago, we were totally reliant on like libraries and physical classrooms, and now we've got pretty much any information we could want right here on our phones. But something I keep hearing about is this whole idea of a knowledge society. What does that even mean?
Yeah, that term can definitely sound kind of futuristic, but
Yeah.
honestly, we're already living in it. The knowledge society, it's not just about how much information is out there. It's about how we're using technology to connect and
Sure.
collaborate and actually use that knowledge in the real world.
So it's not enough to just be able to memorize a bunch of facts anymore. It's more about like how we take in information, make connections, and use it to do new things.
Exactly. And this shift is a really big deal, especially for higher education institutions. The OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, they've been saying that education systems really need to adapt to this new reality. It's not about preparing students for the jobs that already exist anymore. It's about giving them the skills they'll need to succeed in a world that's constantly changing.
And a big part of that is understanding how people learn in this digital age, right?
Yeah.
Which is where I guess connectivism comes in.
Absolutely. Connectivism gives us a new way to think about how we learn in this world where everything's networked and knowledge is always being created and shared.
This is where it gets really interesting to me. So instead of traditional classrooms and lectures, we're talking about a more interconnected approach.
Yeah, exactly. And this is especially relevant in Mexico, where there's a big push to use technology and new ways of learning to make education accessible to everyone, to make sure that students are prepared for the future.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty of connectivism. What are the main ideas behind it, and how can we understand it in a way that makes sense for our everyday lives? So we're kind of changing how we think about knowledge itself, right? It's not like this fixed thing we just like download into our brains anymore.
Yeah, it's not about filling up a notebook. Connectivism says, forget that old way of thinking about it. Knowledge, I, a network,
Yeah.
it's all about connections. Think of neurons in the brain or like online communities. Everything's linked.
Okay, so it's more like a giant web where everything's connected, and learning means making those connections stronger or finding new
You
ones.
got it.
Yeah.
It's always changing based on new information or experiences we have, even our interactions.
You know, this reminds me of something. I was reading an article the other day about a new marketing strategy. Totally went over my head. But then someone on LinkedIn was talking about it, and it just clicked. I was able to connect it to things I already knew about social media and my own experiences.
There you go. Connectivism in action. You took that info, connect it with other stuff, and boom, new understanding created. And get this, connectivism says community is super important to all this. It's the different perspectives, backgrounds, those unexpected connections we make that make what we know so much richer.
It's like we all have our own little piece of the puzzle, and by coming together and sharing those pieces, we can finally see the whole picture.
Exactly. And language is a big part of all this too. The words we use, the way we talk about things, it all affects how we connect ideas and understand things. Think about how much better a conversation is when you've got all sorts of different opinions and ideas being shared.
Totally. Like online forums and discussions, they've become such valuable places to learn because you have people from everywhere sharing their knowledge and coming up with new ideas.
Absolutely. And for Mexico, this whole collaborative learning thing is really important. One of the big challenges they're facing is this digital divide, making sure students everywhere have the technology and resources they need to succeed in this interconnected world.
Which is where things like open educational resources come in, right? OERs. They're all about making knowledge free and accessible for everyone.
Mm.
They really are kind of revolutionary when you think about it. It's like we're saying, hey, everyone, come on, knowledge should be free for everybody.
I like that way of looking at it. OERs cover so much stuff. Textbooks, videos, lecture notes, you name it, even whole courses that are totally free for anyone to use Change Up Share however they want. It's a really powerful way to make sure everyone has access to knowledge, especially in a place like Mexico, where getting those good educational resources isn't always easy for everyone.
So instead of having to rely on these expensive textbooks, students in Mexico could have this huge library of stuff online totally free.
Exactly. Think of a student in some rural part of Mexico. Now they can have all the same high-quality learning materials someone in Mexico City or even in a whole different country. It's amazing what OERs can do.
That's really cool. But having access is only part of it, right? You also got to know how to navigate all this information, figure out what's actually true, and then use what you learn in a practical way.
You're totally right. That's why connectivism stresses how important critical thinking is. Information literacy, being able to work with others. Those skills are key for anyone, no matter if you're in a classroom or working a job.
So it's not just about finding information fast. You got to be able to look at it from different angles, put it all together, and then use it to solve problems and make new things.
Exactly. And this goes back to what ANUIEC, the Association of Mexican Universities, has been saying about Education 4.0.
Yeah.
It's not just about having computers in the classroom. It's about totally rethinking how we get students ready for a future where things are always changing.
Education 4.0, it's like we're giving the whole system an upgrade.
Pretty much. Think about it. We don't even know what jobs are going to be around in the future. So how do we get students ready for that? By helping them build those critical thinking skills, those problem-solving skills, and the ability to keep learning their whole lives.
Yeah, it's not about robots taking everyone's jobs. It's the people who can think critically, work together, and never stop learning who are going to be in demand. And connectivism gives us a whole new way to think about how to teach those skills.
Exactly. And it reminds us that learning isn't just stuck inside classrooms and textbooks. It's something we're doing all the time, everywhere, through the connections we make and the networks we build.
So as we wrap up here, I think the big takeaway is this. You're not just along for the ride in this knowledge society. You're in the driver's seat. You get to choose what you want to learn, connect with people from all over, and make your own path in this world that never stops changing.
I love that. And who knows, maybe the connections you make, the ideas you have, will lead to the next big discovery or invention.
Yeah.
That's what's so great about connectivism. It reminds us that there's no limit to what we can learn and do.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Keep those connections strong, stay curious, and keep exploring. See you next time.